Hello, I'm David Kain. I'm the president of Kain Automotive, and I'm really excited to be joined today by the team at AUTOFLYTE. AUTOFLYTE is a marketing intelligence company that does digital marketing guidance for dealerships and also for Tier 1 and Tier 2. And they've got really remarkable insights that I think will be really good. And if Sean Niffen, if you're watching from Germain Motor Company, no, it's not just another damn dashboard. So ADD, it is actually a marketing intelligence tool that'll get you right down to specific zip codes. And they're the only one in the marketplace that has the kind of intelligence that we're going to talk about today. So I'd like you to meet Steve Lay, and Steve will introduce AUTOFLYTE and the team that's on the call with us today. So Steve, tell us a little bit about yourself and your AUTOFLYTE company and team.
Thank you, David. Well, I've been in the business 38 years, long time, and about 5 years ago, having run traditional agencies for a long time, I decided I wanted to come up with something that was innovative and unique, and so we were able to acquire the daily sales data, so we're able to define the landscape on a daily basis for the entire industry and give dealers an advantage by competitor nameplate and geographies to where they should target, and we'll show you that. And with me is Robert Black. He's our VP of Sales. Robert spent 20 years at Ford and 15 years at Urban Science, and he's a key leader and driver here. And to Stephen Lay, my son, but also a digital director, and he's primary person on the account side that drives the development of the platform, so he's extremely familiar with it. So we'd love to be able to show it to you. We're going to show you at a Tier 2 level. We can get down into Tier 3. We don't want to show any specific dealers' data per se because we don't have permission, but we'll be able to give you a very good look and feel for what these insights deliver to a dealer. Robert, you want to?
Actually, what we'll do,
sure.
That's all right. I'll just poke a little fun at Robert there. I'll share this. So for whatever reason, Robert has a friend who's got my name in his phone as well. And he accidentally has called me consistently for about the last 10 years. I met Robert years ago when he worked at the Southwest region with Ford Motor Company, and he was really an awesome merchandising manager and marketing manager for the region. And he used to put on these events called the Big 60. And when I was at Ford Direct years ago, he let me go down and play golf in the event. I got me some new cowboy boots that were Texas style, and I mean, he really is
great.
Just a real seasoned professional. And his 15 years with Urban Science, I think, really prepared him for the overall data. And then I also like to point out poor Steven down there having to work with his dad. My daughter has worked for the last 7 years, and there's nothing like the dynamics in family. So it is a real pleasure to get to have all you guys on the phone. So Robert, if you want to share anything on the screen, that'd be great. Take it away, sir.
All right, thanks, David. Great to talk to you again. I do have to apologize. As I was working with Urban Science, we had a gentleman named David Kain who is located in Australia. So there were multiple times at 3 o'clock in the morning your time that I would reach out to David Kain only to get your wonderful voice on the phone. So I apologize for that, but I appreciate you taking the call. It's been awesome. So let me just start off by talking a little bit about AUTOFLYTE and Edge and helping you understand who we are, what we do, and why it's very critical right now because of things that are happening, this virus and how it's affecting not only the automotive industry, but sales in general across the United States. The most important and key ingredient to our solution is the fact that we get the RDR sales every night across the country from all the OEMs. So we have visibility into not only what is selling, but where it is selling, what models, what segments, what dealerships. And you might be surprised that as you look at the different markets, you can tell what's happening with the virus because you can see the markets opening, closing, staying the same. And the beauty of the data is that it is of last night. Those reports that we have tons of data out there right now that gives us information that's 1, 2, 3 months old. Everything's changing so quickly now, David. We don't know what tomorrow really holds, and having that data as of last night is really critical.
Well, Robert, let's pause for just a moment on that point alone, because I can't underscore enough how important it is because dealers may not realize the latency of the data that they currently work with. I remember, and let's take you back to your field days with Ford Motor Company, you'd go into the dealer and you'd say, hey, you know, here's your historical sales, or y'all got to try. And I'm like, dude, that was 3 months ago. Why are you talking about sales that are that old? I can't do anything tomorrow. So, you know, what is the latency of the data that we typically see in the industry? And why does this prove to be such a real important data point for you guys?
Yeah, well, you know, most of the automotive OEMs and dealerships use dealer registration or vehicle registration information, and that typically lags, you know, it can lag 30, 45 days before you actually get the information. To your point, that's old news at that point. Dealers are really forward looking. They want to know what's happening tomorrow, right? And where are we headed now? So our data comes in every day. We get it as of last night, 3 o'clock in the morning. So we have the most up-to-date information that's available in the industry right now. And that makes us, you know, able to really see this virus as it sweeps across the country, look at cities as they start to close down, as they're starting to maybe plateau a bit, and some of them as they're starting to rise. Just last week, I was talking to a dealer in Atlanta, and you know, he was shocked to see that there are some zip codes that are doing very well right now in Atlanta. It's just that, you know, if you were to use traditional data, you wouldn't know that those zip codes were doing well until, you know, 3 months from now. And that's too late. You know, it's like, you know, we say that around here all the time. It's like a football game, and you've heard this over and over again. You know, you can't wait till the end of the game to decide how you need to adjust things. And so with the data that we have right now, it gives you that ability to look at not only what's selling, but also who's selling it, right? And dealers, I know they talk, and I know, you know, they call their buddies and say, hey, I have 10 out for the month. How are you doing? Because they're trying to get an idea of, you know, is 10 good or bad? And now, you know, all the bets are off, and we really don't know anymore what's good or bad. With this tool, you're able to get a almost real-time market share of the whole industry. So you'll know, you know, is that 10 that I sold, is that a good number or a bad number? And you don't have to call your buddy. You don't have to rely on that person telling you exactly what it is or they did or didn't do, you know, for the month-to-date number.
Sure. So Steve, out of curiosity, what drove you to this? What made this important to you as a company? Because you've obviously been in digital marketing for a long period of time. You probably sat there several times saying, God, I wish I knew, I wish I knew.
So it was actually in 2015, a former colleague of Robert's at both Ford and that gentleman went to Urban Science. I was just happened to be talking to him about another subject, but for years I've been saying, you just got to give me that data. Give me your data, and I can make you guys money. But you know, there's a better way to help the industry. And literally, it took a couple of years. It was like making it through the Hunger Games to convince them to do it. But they finally gave it to us, and we've been 3 years building the platform that you'll see.
Excellent. And just out of curiosity, when you talk about building a platform, Stephen, I can imagine, you know, your father and Robert are both there all the time acting as though, you know, just get that done tonight, no problem, you know, you don't have anything better to do. Is it difficult to pull all this data together? And I guess more importantly, we all see data, but creating it in an array to where the consumer interface, the user interface is meaningful and that they can take action with it.
Sure. Yeah, it's like you sat in on some of our meetings. Yeah, yesterday was fine is the kind of tagline that circulates around here. You know, we have a really fantastic team. So, you know, we're a small business, but this looks and feels very much like an enterprise level product. You know, the genesis of it, you know, you talk about kind of 3 years building it. It's really it came about because, you know, AUTOFLYTE is first and foremost a digital marketing company. So this was a product that would help differentiate us in that space to improve our marketing efforts. And as there's a lot on that side that we'll kind of stay away from and just focus on the product. But, you know, as needs arose for, you know, it would be great if we could really understand this to measure the impact of our advertising on this side. More and more elements presented themselves, and they just kind of continually built on themselves, and the tool kind of evolved from something that was our in-house product to facilitate our efforts to something that we realized could really help other teams execute their own advertising at that level. And then it's grown, you know, it started to kind of focus through the tier 3 lens of here's dealer-specific performance, and Bobby will talk all about the differences of how we define performance. But here's the market level look relative to this dealer. Now it's grown to where it's really this more robust tier 2 in this geography. We can really give a lot of great insights as far as vehicle mobility, what's moving, where is it moving, who's moving it, down to the zip code level, and the recency of it really helps validate what we're doing on the advertising side, really help prove empirically that we are in fact moving the needle from a sales perspective and move beyond just the traditional marketing KPIs that everybody submits at the end of the month. So it's just a different way that we do our advertising efforts. I mean, there's a lot of the information available on the digital side is truly real time. I mean, you can watch people on their websites. So having that level of information versus, you know, here's Hulk 45 days ago, obviously there's a huge gap there. So we can start doing these, you know, we touch campaigns at X interval. If we have the sales data right alongside of that, you know, it's a total no-brainer. I mean, that's 1 and 1 equals 3 there when you have that level of information that you can commingle with the advertising side, and everybody wins. It's really helped us and other teams do their job a lot better when it comes to the advertising.
Awesome, good job. So Robert, without further ado, would you kind of take us a little bit through the tool? And I know you don't want to show everything, but what's safe to share?
Yeah, we'll have Stephen pull that up for you right now, David. And so as Stephen said, one of the things that's really interesting about this tool is the fact that we're not focused on what you should do, right? It's not a performance measurement tool like most of the metrics that are out there. This tool is showing you, I call it the most expensive fish finder in the world, right? It tells you where you need to go fish, where are vehicles being sold, right? And it allows you to understand the areas that you're doing a good job, the areas where maybe everybody else is selling and you're not, and in those areas where maybe you're spending money and you just haven't sold anything there for quite a while. So the map that Stephen has up on the screen right now, it shows a market, one particular market, and all of those top 10, in this case, segments in that market, where are those segments winning by zip code? And you can actually go over and click on each zip code, and it'll allow you to see within the zip code not only what segments are selling in the numbers, but it'll give you a drop down there that allows you to pick, the dealers, so you can see which dealers are selling in that zip code. Or if you want to go to the segments or brands, it has it in there. So it gives you a really detailed look at your market. And we use a lens of up to 50 miles across, so 100-mile diameter for the dealer. They can look throughout their market and understand what's going on in their market. It does not roll up to the state or the country or any of those kind of things that typical metrics do, because it's focused on the dealer understanding what's going on in their market. Any sale that occurs in the market we'll have in the tool. So if someone from California sells something into Atlanta, it will show that dealership sold into Atlanta, but the dealer in Atlanta would not be able to go out to California and pull up that dealer's market and look within that market. So it's, again, very focused on not really performance, and I would say not really opportunity as it's been defined in the past. You know, a lot of metrics and measurements will say, you know what, a dealer should be able to sell this amount or should be expected to sell that amount. And what I found is that most dealers, if there are 100 vehicles that are being sold in a zip code, they want to sell 100 vehicles, right? So it's more about giving the full picture of what's happening in the market so they can adjust their advertising, specifically, you know, digital advertising, things like cable now that you can adjust by zip code, and then allows you to actually save off scenarios. So if you have a search campaign and you want to save off all of those zip codes that you're advertising in, you can save that scenario. You can track it on a daily basis to see, you know, is that search paying off? You know, am I increasing the number of polygons here that I'm winning, the number of zip codes that I'm winning via this search campaign that I have, or cable advertising, or whatever type of advertising you're doing.
So give us a scenario, a typical scenario. So Steve, dealer calls you up and they say, oh man, we got these cars that have grabbed the lot and I can't move them off. And it's the new product that the OEM, let's go back to Robert's field day. I love to go back to him when he's sitting across from a dealer on the phone and he's saying, oh, these Taurus SHOs, they're exactly what you need to have on your lot. And next thing you know, we have too many of them. We used to say, Robert, that the Aspires were breeding in the back of the dealership and we couldn't stop them from recreating. So, you know, Steve,
I've sold some Aspires in my day, yeah.
So Steve, what's the scenario? What's a practical perspective that dealers would look at and how they would benefit?
On the dealer-specific tab, we give them the ability, as Robert says, to create specific scenarios. So there's no limit to what can be uploaded into this system, saved and tracked. So you could create an overall search campaign. You could create search campaigns. So if you had a CDJR story, you could create it by brand, and you could go out onto the individual nameplate. But the other thing that we have as part of it is there's AI behind some of this, and we look at trends, right? So we tell the dealer based on the geography and the time frame they've selected exactly what's happening by nameplate. So and it's based on standard deviation. But the point is you know if it's a tsunami you want to ride, or avoid, or wave you want to ride. So we help the dealers understand where the market is changing. So one of the beauties of this is because it's so real time, you can save a month, right? It gives you insights into, a good example is we had a Chevy store in Houston. Our account manager logged in on Monday, 15 Silverado 1500s were sold. In 10 miles around that dealership, he sold one.
Wow.
She did a little research and found out that the competitor changed his message to $6 a day. Now, his overall price was less than that, but the $6 a day resonated. We went in, called him, said, change your price. He was able to adjust mid-month and save his month as opposed to getting waxed for 2 more weeks. So not only does it tell you that the nameplates are good, but it'll also, you can see if there's a hiccup during the day, you can adjust in real time. So as Robert said, you don't have to wait to the end of the game to adjust. When it's already over, you know, the whistle's down and you lost that month. So we give you the ability to see what nameplates are performing, where they're performing, who you need to go against, and we can give you a vision of that here without getting down to a dealer level. When Stephen will pull up this, and then he can show you what happens at a segment level. We can get close to what that would look like for a dealer.
You know what? But maybe we should have Stephen just walk through it real quick at a high level. How about that, David?
Yeah, that'd be great. So ironically, our colleague is in Clarksville, Tennessee today, so this is totally appropriate. She's working with a 9-store group down there.
Awesome.
Perfect.
There we go. Well, like Bobby alluded to earlier, you know, we're working off of a centroid, and there's 2 ways we accomplish that. There's the tier 2, which we've done here. And if you can see the top left of your screen here, it's very, very friendly. Pick a state, pick a city to where you would like to start, and then you can move outwards from there. And that visible lens, you know, Bobby likes to use the magnifying glass analogy, 50-mile radius, 100-mile diameter. So within that, that's our universe. Any sale that occurs within there, that's what we're going to show. And a couple different ways in which we would use this. I'd just like to point out we are looking at the current month of May, just to emphasize the fact that this is what it is we say it is. So even though here we are on the 12th of the month, the 12th, you know, there's already been 935 RDRs punched. There's a whole kind of conversation we could have about the cadence in the games in which those RDRs get turned in, but nonetheless, this is the objective scorecard that we would use to evaluate our performance for our clients on behalf of the larger kind of pool of opportunity here. So as far as navigating through it, there's a couple ways we go. We'll be started here on the map, and the way you can visualize these sales, if you wanted to start at the brand level, you could do that. And you notice the coloring on the map is changing based on my selections. This term winners map is just describing, okay, in the gray shaded zips, Toyota is the volume leader, so on and so forth. If you select the segment leader would represent models, dealers, so on and so forth. The heat map is another very helpful way to go right to this. So to your comment earlier about you know, your listener in Clarksville, you know, as far as performance this month's concerned, Clarksville is the hot spot. You could have the ability to click right into it, see what the brands are, see the models, see the dealers, so on and so forth. So it's really user friendly in that regard. So it's you know, you're not compiling your, you know, CRM exports where you only have your client. We can give you, you know, your client plus the rest of the industry. So beneath that, you'll notice that there's, you a table, and this will go out to all 130 zip codes that exist around where we go, and we can repeat that process. So if we're starting, we'll stick with the Clarksville theme. We give the user the ability to drop down into each specific subtable. So if you recall at the beginning, there were 5 options. Now we've dropped down to 4 because we focused in on 1 zip code. So if it's in the zip code, who's had the greatest increase from a share perspective, because we are looking at month to date, we are comparing these unit numbers to the completed month of May in 2019. So there will be a lot of red on the page specifically because of current events and the fact that it's the 12th of the month. But the share is still very reflective, particularly if we're looking at the segment level in a particular zip code, or in this case 37042. Has somebody had an outlier rate of success? Not necessarily. Has somebody held on tight? You can go and drill down through that look if you want to start from that way. And this subtable concept repeats. So as you drop down in each selection, you'll see the brands participating. You could go over to the models, and then that last tab is dealer, and we'll stick right here. But this gives you a very quick way to navigate through how you would want to look kind of at the geographic performance. And because we have this sort of tabbed approach, you could accomplish a lot of this the same way if we started at a segment level, just look at the top line performance and then drill down into the geographies, the dealers, the models, so on and so forth. One nice thing that it will do, particularly if you're kind of going between your competitor, or dealer, if you wanted to do kind of a combination or a head-to-head comparison, let's just say in this case we'll go Toyota versus Nissan. You can filter out these data sets, to really just drill down into the categories that are relevant for you. All the other selections will update accordingly. It will only be the models up top. It's effectively just changing the denominator. So when you're looking through at the share areas, now we're looking at the 297 Toyota and Nissan sales reported at this time. You could obviously apply the dealer filters to, make it your store versus the guy across the street. Segment comparisons, model comparisons to understand if you are falling behind in, say, a zip code area that is nearer to you but further from them, there are levers you could pull on the advertising side to maybe try and affect that. Steve gave the example of when we've changed messaging in the past based on a competitor's success. Things of that nature that you just can't ascertain using Google Analytics or Google Ads or the reporting out of Facebook. That really gets you so far. When you live in those areas, and this is where it's kind of scary when we do it without this level of insights anymore, is we all hang our hat on form fills and phone calls, but you really don't ever get to see it come out the other end. There's a lot of companies that tout attribution. That's kind of the holy grail term in everybody's mind, is that full funnel attribution. And where you are on how believable that is teach their own. But what we do is we can take all of those campaign metrics and bump them up against the sales that we're seeing in here. So everybody's got their client CRM sold list that they're working off of. We can complete the other half. Is the 10 that we have out at this point of the month good, or have we fallen behind? It was really hard to benchmark that and gauge that unless you're just comparing to your own historical success. So it's just really there's sometimes it can be paralysis analysis for new users because there's so much here. But when you really kind of get into a rhythm, this just becomes somebody else's. It's just the next tab over that you have open amongst all your other platforms you're participating in. You check it on the same interval. You can identify quickly what's moved, who's moved it, where's moved it, and then you kind of already know what tactics you're pushing on behalf of your client, and you can make changes accordingly. So that kind of rinse, repeat, research flow is what we do on the account side here at AUTOFLYTE, daily, weekly, at whatever interval needed.
I can imagine. So Robert, you and I talked about it earlier when you exposed me to this. There are some manufacturers that aren't providing the data that you guys are working with. Could you talk a little bit about that development cycle and where
Sure.
that can play out?
And so right now we have every major OEM in the United States except for Ford Motor Company. We're working with them right now. We don't have some of the high-end luxury brands like Bugattis or Lamborghinis or Bentleys. But when it comes to the actual bulk of the industry, we have it, right? And we're working through. We're going to be modeling some of the other manufacturers. We'll have it in here so that we can get a true look at what the share is. But so far, just the amount of data that we have and the information we have has really helped all of the dealers that we work with do a better job of marketing, right? Understanding those little, I mean, just think about it, David. How much would you give as a dealer to understand exactly what the guy, down the street is selling, what he sold last night? It gives you a really good idea when you start blowing out, whatever vehicle the customers are coming in, they're not buying there, and they're going down the street and they're buying. And all of a sudden you see, a product line where, maybe they've jumped 10, 12 units, and you can refocus your sales process. You can make sure that every customer that comes in on that particular vehicle, that you're selling them. It gives you for the first time ever, it gives you true insight into what's happening out there with sales. It's very unique.
I can imagine. Steve, do you want to add something there?
Yeah, I want Stephen to show you. So we've anonymized the dealer, but when it gets down to nameplate specific, we give recommendations for where you need to hold your ground, because that's where you're selling the majority of your, in this case, Equinoxes. So this dealer's selling 85% of their Equinoxes in those zip codes. So they need to make sure that they're targeting there. Conversely, they need to go to war in these other zip codes because they're losing 65% to other dealers. And then there's the other zip codes on the far right. Take a closer look. You're not getting any sales, so something is not working there. Is it messaging, whatever it is? And then there's all interactive on the map below that Stephen will show you. So we take these particular insights and we give them specific recommendations by nameplate. And the recommendation can be intra-brand, and next week we're releasing competitive brand. So if it's tier 2 level where it's pure conquesting that the OEMs worried about, we'll give them those solutions. And as Bobby said, we are putting model data in for all the nameplates that don't report. So if you are looking to full-size trucks and you want to go after, I'm Silverado and I want to go after the industry, we can tell you where you need to go. Where's the dominant area for trucks? Where's the highly competitive, where everybody's winning, and then where you should not go fishing because the full-size segment doesn't perform well there. So, and it's based on yesterday's performance and where the market opportunity is tomorrow.
Wow. So interesting enough, the question I have for you or Robert, Steve, is I think your product could work obviously really well at a dealer level, definitely at the agency level. You guys are an agency of sorts, and you provide this kind of guidance. What do you see your product migrating to? Is it going to be you're going to have agency relationships, or is this going to be dealer? What will this turn into, or will you just see where it takes you?
Well, we know where we want it to go. So we've got a strong tier 3 push on right now. With in the last month, it wouldn't be surprising to you that with all the uncertainty, 1,200 dealers have come onto this platform. Mm-hmm. We are building out a look for agencies, which gives them the tier 2 solution, well, like we showed you, without the dealer visibility. But then for the OEMs, for their sales organizations, this certainly informs that field sales reps conversations, because when they walk in there, we're talking about things that are happening now that the dealer can actually affect change. When you walk in with a 90-day-old bulk report, you can't do anything about that. Right? It's like you're sitting in the cockpit of your boat and you look at this and the weather charts are clear and you're looking up on the TV monitor and there's a hurricane coming. What are you going to believe?
Yeah.
We can only react to one of those things.
Yeah, no question. So Robert, this obviously is kind of mind-blowing, and I think Stephen said the right thing when he said, you kind of got to get acclimated to it. You guys have obviously account representatives that guide us through here. What are you seeing, what are you hearing are the frequently asked questions? You sign me up, dealer says, oh, this looks really good, but what are those FAQs?
Go ahead, Steve.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, so that's why I flipped over to this screen. I think the frequently asked question is just, whoa, what just happened? It really can be quite overwhelming, but when you distill it down, what we're trying to take the guesswork out of is the who, the what, and the where. So I pulled this up to just kind of illustrate that even within the tool, there's a lot here. So I don't want to plug us, so I apologize if that's inappropriate, David. But
no, that's
anybody
fine.
would like
I want you to plug you. Yeah, this is all about making sure. Yeah, so please feel free to plug yourself.
Okay, so there's really no, from an onboard perspective from the dealer, it's really just a name and an email. The data is already in here because it's predicated off those RDR information for everybody. So we could go to any dealer right now, and what I'm showing you here is not something that I've done on the front end. It's really just taking that RDR information, and it will give you some takeaways right out the bat that you can either use or at the very least help influence the strategies that you want to implement. So what we were showing you here is, yeah, just based off of kind of the sales performance, right? You'll have areas of efficiency. You'll have areas where there's, statistically, this is where your most competition is. And then lastly, your underperforming areas. And a lot of this may be, okay, all well and good, I already knew this relative to me, but it's helpful, again, I can't stress this enough, to help give the other, the competitive aspect of that too, whether you're focused within your brand or outside your brand. It takes the blinders off. You kind of got you got the scorecard now, so you can really help inform those decisions. And again, you can download these. So for those that just want the CSVs that you can take, and it's this collection of zip codes, and you go and you put it in from, location targeting, import for like Google Ads or something like that. Very easy to do. You can really do your research and your planning in this, export it out, or conversely go the other way. Existing accounts that you already have, it's very easy to take those exports out of those and say, these are the areas geographically at the zip code level. This is where I'm interested. This is where I spend my money. I want to report specifically on this and move beyond even the radiuses. So there's a lot of flexibility that you have in that regard. And again, there are some takeaways. So you saw the kind of the 3 bucketed areas. The share, again, particularly in the middle of the month, we really look a lot at the share of what's turned in, what do we get. There's a lot of dynamic involvement in this where you can set thresholds. The maps will update. They are interactive. If I clicked into this, you'd see who we're looking at, or if you're real savvy, you can see it on the tab in my browser there. But, you have a lot of information, whether you want to share, units sold, again, back to the kind of where do I do perform, where do I underperform, and again, have some takeaways, in this area that, define these zips are reflected in this area, or not reflected, but you've made sales in them, you might want to include them, right? Conversely, you haven't had any sales in these, but they are included, you might want to omit them. And then lastly, where's just the most competition for the Equinox in this case? And these insights repeat through for each vehicle at the dealership, so it's really, you see page 1, 2, 3, 4, you can drop down on any of these and have all that ready to go, tailored to, yeah, so there's a lot. So frequently asked questions, because we work in a radius, it's the sales that occur within that lens. So sometimes total sales numbers will actually exceed that, believe it or not, and it actually gives credence to moving beyond just your PMA or your AOR. That's not where your sweet spot is more often than not. You do sell closer in, obviously, but people are generally pretty surprised when they go out to 25 or even 50 miles that they still don't cover the whole sales landscape. And obviously, urban versus rural plays a big part of that, but nonetheless, it gives you a different look than, you used the acronym ADD earlier, another damn dashboard of where some of those reports are just filtered to, this is the performance relative to your PMA, or here's kind of the state, or here's the region. This flexibility that you have to either, identify the zip codes or go all the way out to 50 miles, I think really overlays nicely with what, a dealer would consider their actual, kind of landscape, sales area, and it doesn't, and it's presented in such a way that it's big picture enough that you can get it quickly, or you can go down here and we can spend an hour going zip by zip, segment by segment, model by model, roll it back in time, year over year, period over period, however you would want to do it. It's all built into this, and it really will take you anywhere you want to go. So I'm kind of riffing now at this point, so I'll flip it to Bobby.
Well, let me answer that. So, Steve, we used to scroll up the trending, and then I just want to show him the whole map since he's given us the liberty. But the biggest thing with everybody says, this is kind of like buying Excel. Now what? So we have a whole training department, and we work with the dealers and their marketing folks to help them understand, where the story is here. Where's your opportunity? Where do you need to go look? And how do you take this data and actually apply it if you want to do it yourself? So we coach them up and do that. So the thing I was telling you about earlier here, so these chevrons, these sergeant stripes, if you will, those are their standard deviation. 1 is 68%, 2 is 95, 3 is 99.7. So when you're seeing chevrons going up, and your field rep walks in, those are hot vehicles, you want to buy them. When you're seeing 3 chevrons down, you got a concrete killer. You don't need any more.
I'll tell you another thing too, David. We've signed up over 1,200 dealers in the last month, and I think one of the most important thing that keeps coming up is the fact that this information is not new information. It's dealer sales. The thing that's new about this is that it's available like it has never been available before every day. So dealers know what to do with that information. They don't have to create a new group to meet once a month to review this information like some dashboards, they already are having these meetings. It informs the marketing meetings they're having, in their sales meetings that they're having, all the meetings they're already having. So here's what I would say. The best way to get to know the benefit of this tool is to use it. So here's what we're going to do, because for the people that are your viewers here today, a special limited time offer. If they would like to contact you with their email and their dealership name, we'll give them access for the month of May for free. We'll set them up. Setup on this is minimal. It takes no time at all. And we'll allow them to use it for the month, okay? In addition to that, for the month of June, we'll give them a 20% discount if they come through you and send their information over to you.
That would be awesome. And, it's interesting. I was waiting for the pitch, and I knew, we'd get the VP of sales, using that opportunity. But it's interesting. Something comes to mind as I go through this. Steve, Robert, and Steven, you all have a good knowledge base for the industry overall. And one of the things that I used to get when I was a sales manager or a dealership is our team would say, "Did you see that ad for such and such? We got to do that." And now you can sit here honestly and say, well, let's take a pause and see if they sold anything. So, that kind of reverse intelligence to where I can sit here and say, now we don't have to chase everybody across the street. It harkens back to the used cars movie with Kurt Russell years ago, where they put the dollar money on the fishing pole.
Ben Gary, right.
Yeah. So it just kind of sales managers really, to a large degree, have to calm down their team members and let them know, hey, we've got a path forward. And this seems to be a real intelligence. And I love market intelligence. I remember when we first launched Ford Direct, I was the dealer to a large degree that sat in on the meetings with our new team of all these young Stevens in the crowd. And I would say, well, I got a gut feeling. They finally calmed me down and said, yeah, you got a really good gut feeling, but can you imagine if you can merge that with data? What kind of decisions you could make? And I was like, okay, you got me there. So, Steve,
so you're right on, David. You really are. I mean, I hate to use an old adage, but they used to say, 50% of our advertising works. We just don't know 50%. Everybody says that. And now you kind of do. And it's not about clicks anymore or impressions or views. It's actual sales as of last night, which is really a cool thing and allows you to kind of keep everybody honest and make sure that you're getting what you think you're getting from all your different vendors and all the different investments that you're making.
Absolutely. And Steve, if you would take us home, sir, tell us why we should do this.
Well, our adage is don't spend more, spend smarter. And what we weren't able to show you when we were on the marketing tab where we were giving you the recommendations by nameplate is above that there's a master table that tracks everything, and the last column there is cost per sale. And we're the only ones that can add that in, because you can load in your marketing plan into this. You can load in every single line item and allocate your budget out, and it actually tracks the cost per sale by initiative, by geographic area, by nameplate. You can get as granular as you want. And so you're able to refine your spending. So you don't have to spend more, but you can spend a lot smarter with this.
You bet. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing y'all once you get your haircut and really bring your work setting back.
Get polished a little. Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun. I really do appreciate it. And I look forward to what the future holds for our clients that participate in this, and certainly what the growth and the strength of your all's company is. So I can't thank you enough for spending time with us today, and I look forward to learning a little more as we go forward.
Thank you, David.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.